Now next we start with the new chapter in deep learning, right? The next chapter is your sequence to sequence modeling, that is your RNN. Okay, so in unit 2 we already discussed the deep networks, right? In that we already saw the basic neural network and the detailed discussion of the feed forward neural network. Do remember, students, right? The neural network right, they are mainly divided into two types. The first one is your feed forward network, and second is your recurrent network. So these are the two main categories of the neural network. That means all the neural networks, they are either that belongs to the feed forward network or they will belong to the recurrent network. What happened in case of feed forward, right? We all know about this, right? In case of feed forward, the information flow only in one direction, यानी एक ही डायरेक्शन में इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो होगी, राइट? जैसे इन केस ऑफ दिस, राइट, द आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ दिस इज लाइक x1, x2, then hidden nodes h1, h2 and output y. Now, so this is your feed forward network, right? This is an example of feed forward network. As we can see here, the information is flowing in only one direction, right? The information is flowing in one direction only. There is no backward arrow, right? Left to right जो है ना, the information follows only left to right direction, right? The network is called as feed forward. Why? Because in this case what happened, this node h1 is responsible for feeding the input. Whatever the input, right, it feed into it, process it and forward it. इसको forward कर देगा वो next node को. That's why this type of networks are called as feed forward networks. But what happened in the case of recurrent network, right? In recurrent network, right, we have to in case of recurrent network, right, there is a closed loop in the network, right? It will form a closed loop. यहाँ पे loop नहीं बनेगा. Why? Because the information is flowing in only one direction. As we can see in case of the this recurrent network, right? We will see the diagram of the recurrent network, right? This is my node x1, x2, then hidden node h1, h2, and suppose we have a 2 output node, right? In feed forward we also have a 2 output node. We can also have a 2 output nodes, right? So in this case what happened, this arrow, then this will go there, again this. Right. Now what happened in this case, this is my output. This output is again given back, right? This output is again given back to this network, and again same, this output is again back given to this network. So as we can see here, right, at one point, right, they will form a loop, right? They will form a closed loop, right? Therefore, right, these networks, right, are called as recurrent network. They are called as recurrent network. Now, this is your first difference between the feed forward network and the recurrent network. Now, second, why we are giving this output back to the hidden nodes, right? ये हिडन नोड्स पे हम लोग ने आउटपुट क्यों वापस बैकवर्ड डायरेक्शन में सेंड कर रहे हैं, राइट? बिकॉज व्हाट हैपन इन केस ऑफ neural network, right, recurrent neural network, right, we have a concept of memory, right? In this we have a memory. That means this network has a concept of memory where we can store the output, right? The previous output जो है that will be stored in the memory. Whenever we requires this output, we can fetch the output from the memory. But in case of feed forward, feed forward network does not have any memory, right? There is no concept of memory in this, right? These are called as memory-less network. They are called as memory-less network. That means they do not have any memories. That यहाँ पे क्या होगा? The information is not stored anywhere. Right? Once this H1, right? Suppose we have a H1, right? Once this H1, right, calculates the output, it is given to the Y, and the information gets deleted. मतलब यहाँ पे information इसको दे दी गई. Now ये नोड के पास कुछ भी information store नहीं रहेगा. Why? Because they are memory-less network. They do not have any memory. This is the main difference between the feed-forward neural network and the recurrent neural network. So, for sequential modeling or sequence modeling, right, we have to use a recurrent network. Right? In sequence modeling, the feed-forward neural networks are not able. Right? We are not able to use this feed-forward network. Right? One of the reason is that because they do not have the memory. Right? They does not contain the memory. But in case of sequence modeling, we have to store some output. Right? हमको कुछ ना कुछ output store करना पड़ेगा. Therefore, right, in sequence modeling, right, sequence modeling में, right, RNN is used. RNN is one of the very important neural network, right, that is used for sequence modeling. Now, first of all, we understand what is this sequence modeling. Now, we will see the introduction first. Sequence models are machine learning or deep learning model. First of all, they are the deep learning or machine learning models that input or output sequences of data. Right? In this case, right, we are not giving a single input. Right? यहाँ पे in case of feed forward, right, we will give a single input. हम लोग single input देते थे. But in case of sequence model, right, the sequence of data, right, is given as an input like a paragraph. As an example, right, you do not give as a word to word हम लोग को नहीं देना है. In case of feed forward, word to word क्या है, right, any single input we have to give. But in this case, the sequence of data we have to give as an input, and the output जो generate होगा, that is also a sequence data. तो now जैसे example text stream. Suppose we have a text stream. So in the processing of the text stream, right, is done using a sequence model, right? या sequence data का जो processing होगा उसके लिए हम लोग क्या यूज़ करेंगे, right? Sequence model, that is your RNN. या audio data है, video data, या we can say that any multimedia data. Suppose we have a multimedia data, right? चाहे audio हो, video हो या data, right, कोई भी form में हो, टाइम सीरीज के फॉर्म में है. सपोज वी हैव अ टाइम सीरीज डेटा एटसेट्रा. दिस आर कॉल्ड एज सीक्वेंशियल डेटा. ये हमारा सीक्वेंशियल डेटा है. फॉर सीक्वेंशियल मॉडलिंग, राइट, वी हैव टू यूज सीक्वेंशियल डेटा. अब सीक्वेंशियल डेटा को, राइट, प्रोसेस करने के लिए द न्यूरल नेटवर्क जो यूज होता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज रिकरेंट न्यूरल नेटवर्क. इज अ पॉपुलर एल्गोरिथम यूज इन सीक्वेंशियल मॉडल्स. सीक्वेंशियल मॉडल के लिए डू रिमेंबर स्टूडेंट्स, वी हैव टू यूज recurrent neural network instead of the this feed forward neural network. Next we start the recurrent neural network. So to implement the sequence modeling, the network that is used is recurrent neural network. RNN, always याद रखो, this is one of the type of neural network where the output from the previous step are fed as an input to the current step. यानी ये main definition है. This is the main definition of RNN. In this case, the output of the previous step, मतलब जो पुरानी step का जो output रहेगा, that we fed as an input to the current state. That means the output of the previous step is stored somewhere. Right? We have to store. Right? We have to store this previous step output, and when the next or the current step is executing, we will read the output of the previous step from the memory, and along with the current state we will send this output. So this is the basic definition of recurrent neural network. In traditional neural network क्या होता था? Right? All the information flow in one direction and they are independent. एक ही direction में information था, and the output and the prediction does not depend on any data, right, and any previous data, right, each other. But in this case, like when it is required to predict the next word, suppose I want to predict the next word of the sentence, right, क्या होगा? The previous words are required, and hence there is a need to remember the previous words. So in case of RNN, what happened? ट्रेडिशनल नेटवर्क मतलब दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट फीड फॉरवर्ड नेटवर्क. ट्रेडिशनल कभी भी बात आ रही है, इट मीन्स इट इज अ फीड फॉरवर्ड नेटवर्क. द आउटपुट ऑफ द फीड फॉरवर्ड नेटवर्क, राइट, द आउटपुट इन द फीड फॉरवर्ड नेटवर्क is not stored in the memory. Why? Because they do not have the memory. But in this case, what happened, right, to predict the next word, right, the prediction is depend on the output of the previous word. That means to predict the next word, the previous words are required, and hence there is a need to remember the previous word. We have to remember the previous words, right, so that we can predict the next output. So therefore the RNN came into existence. Right? Feed forward network does not provide this type of functionality. Right? Therefore the introduction and the invention of RNN come into existence, which solve this issue with the help of hidden layers. In this case, right, we also have a hidden layers. The main and the most important feature of RNN is your hidden state. यहाँ पे सबसे important याद रखो hidden states. Right? In hidden states, we can store the information, which remembers some information about the sequence. Whatever the information is stored, it is stored in the hidden state. Hidden state एक बनेगी जो hidden layers के information होगी, जो output layer के जो information होगी previous words की, that they are stored in the hidden state. So one of the very important thing in the recurrent neural network is your hidden state.